Hi.
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 Hey, good to connect with you on here.
Yeah, you
Start.
too.
Yeah.
How are you today?
I'm moving slow. It's kind of one of these like rainy Oregon mornings, so I'm just kind of enjoying that like slow,
No,
wintry fall kind of vibe. Yeah.
that's how I am every day.
That sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm really excited to learn more about what you're up to. Yeah, I got curious about, I saw a couple of your videos and, um, I was just, as I was introducing you, I was just talking about how I'm personally really interested in, different spiritual traditions and lineages, and in particular, yoga and embodiment work, breath work, that kind of stuff. And always looking at like the, kind of parallels and alignments between different traditions because I like to I'm kind of scientific about it, and I like to pull out like,
Mm.
oh yeah, like these things kind of match up, and that's why they're doing this kind of breath work. So we don't have to
Yeah,
get too deep into the science of it,
yeah.
but that's just my own personal curiosity. um, so yeah, I was introducing you as a teacher of Himalayan Kriya Yoga, and as well as a teacher on the subject of, is it Hieros Gamos, or how do you pronounce that?
Hieros Gamos. Yeah, you
Hieros
can say
Gamos.
Hieros Gamos if you
Yeah.
like. That also
Yeah.
sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're a model and kind of like a scout or agent or something like that
Yeah,
in the
so I've
industry.
been a model for like 15 years, and then during that time, I've been researching various different spiritual traditions and just seeking truth, or, all the time, just got this like hunger and this thirst for it. Um, and this year, I kind of started to pivot into kind of healing work in more of a professional capacity. But yeah, I'd been coaching models for a long time, and because I've been scouting models for the last few years and kind of helping them with their like portfolio development and things like that. And I realized that so much of it is just about mindset. And, I was using kind of various like universal laws. I'm sure you're familiar with like the law of attraction. And
Hmm.
um, so, I mean, the law of attraction is just like an oversimplification of universal laws. Um,
Yeah.
Hi guys, hello to everybody who's joining. I
Yeah.
know some of my people are joining.
Oh, great.
Um, yeah, so I was just kind of coaching them into like how to use the power of belief to manifest, their reality, and, get over their mental blocks and their limiting beliefs, because, it didn't matter how gorgeous a model was, they could have the height, they could have the looks and everything. If they didn't believe that they were worthy and they didn't believe that they were good enough, they were not going to be successful. So, it was a lot of that stuff. And then I found myself helping them with all their relationship stuff. So, I was bringing all the things that I was studying in my own personal capacity into that to help them with their careers. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I started to pivot this year.
Yeah, very cool. It makes sense to kind of transition into more of like coaching, teaching from that
Yeah.
position. And I think it's really eye-opening because I think in our culture we tend to see like people with certain sets of privileges, whether it's like how they look or how much money they have, that, all of a sudden they're going to have um, experiences that are, you know, fit with that set of privileges, and the way that we tie those things together, and it's not necessarily true. So much of it has to
No.
do with our deeper beliefs and how we feel about ourselves, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Because the models that had negative beliefs about themselves, you're always taking yourself into all those environments. So even if you're getting signed with big agencies, or you're getting access to, some of the best restaurants and the best nightclubs, and, meeting all these, wealthy people, they just kept on getting their beliefs about themselves reflected back to them. So they were getting bullied by their agents. They were
Yeah.
getting into terrible situations with men. Photographers or makeup artists would say things to them about their appearance because that was the stuff that they were carrying in their energy field.
Yeah.
So yeah, just flipping those beliefs and, you know, doing the sadhana, the spiritual practice to kind of transform those beliefs was really, really key in anything, but definitely in modeling, because it's not just about getting that one job. You've got to be able to get like 2, 3 jobs a week to make it financially viable.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And so I imagine there's a certain energy, an embodied energy you need to really be transmitting and carrying to stay
100%,
in it. Yeah.
100%. Like, because if you're not, you could walk into the casting and then you're not going to book the job. But if you, whenever I noticed, whenever I was like feeling the best about myself and like vibing the highest, that's when I did the best in my career.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense. So let's talk a little bit about, I, I'd love for you to break down Hieros Gamos, because I'm curious to learn more myself, and I imagine our listeners would be also.
Okay, so yeah, I just did a video talking about this for my own channel. So Hieros Gamos is, it basically means sacred union or inner union. And it is the union of the masculine and feminine energies within the body. So in the yogic traditions, we call it Ida and Pingala. So your Ida comes up your left side, it's your feminine channel, and your Pingala is the masculine side on the right side, and they cross at the third eye. So when they're out of balance, then you obviously get problems like, you know, if it's imbalanced towards the masculine side, you'll get problems with like narcissism, being, you know, so service to self, you know, controlling, dominating. And it can be men and women that embody this energy. And then if you're too far onto your feminine side, it will be codependency, it will be lack of structure, it will be being manipulative, victim consciousness, blaming other people for your problems. So in order to heal from these issues, we have to come into union with ourselves. So, you know, if somebody's in their wounded feminine energy, they need to work on their masculine and awaken the divine masculine and the divine feminine. So the divine feminine is basically the feminine energy that has the strong masculine core. So she has structure, she has provision, she can provide for herself because her masculine is strong. She has boundaries, she has courage to speak truth and speak her needs. She's not manipulative. And as you balance these energies, then you know, the ultimate is you balance the energies, your third eye opened, you have Kundalini awakening, and you connect with God. And that's what the real Hieros Gamos is. It's about connecting with the divine. So it's not just about, you know, the outer union, it's actually the inner union.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I love that. And I love that, you know, kind of naming at the core of the healthy, evolved masculine or the healthy, evolved feminine is the opposite. And having becoming into right relationship with that part of ourselves. I think a lot of men, you know, I teach mostly men myself, so
Yeah.
that's my audience. And you know, there's a lot of teachers in men's work that sometimes overemphasize, you know, just developing our masculine. And um, you know, there is that healthier masculine, which, you know, is structured and assertive and directional, and, you know, has boundaries and all this that comes with that. But we need that as men to take care of our own inner feminine, you know,
Yeah.
which can occur as our emotional experience. It can also occur as our inner child on some level,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Totally.
and that's, I found in my own path, like that's really been an essential part of my growth. And sometimes it's bouncing back and forth, you know. It's like there's been times in my life where I've needed to develop one side a little bit more in order
Yeah.
for the other one to kind of up level in some way.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, yeah, I'm on the same journey. Like last year I had to, and I was working on both at the same time. Last year I was working a lot on the feminine. I realized there were so many shadowy aspects to my feminine, and she had been, even though I've been researching this and studying it for many, many years, I think last year was a massive transformation for me, because I dove deep into really shadowy aspects of the feminine. So it was a lot of embodiment practices, but also looking at some of those areas of the feminine that have been very vilified. So the idea of feminine receptivity and receiving provision from the masculine, we have denigrated this as being, you know, we've got these prostitute archetypes and these gold digger and all of that. And these are words which are used to gaslight women into actually knowing their worth and accepting their worth and expecting their worth. So kind of going into some of those areas was like, it was a dark time, but it was so necessary, and I came out so much more powerful. And now I'm kind of going back into the masculine, because, you know, if you don't want to stay stuck there, because sometimes women stay stuck there and go, this whole time I've been like doing the 50-50 thing, or I've even been like financially helping guys and suppressing my own femininity and putting other people before myself. And now it's all about me, and he's got to, and then they get into these all, you know, they start gaming and they start running hoe tactics. And, you know, that can be a part of, you know, the journey, but she shouldn't stay stuck there, because she needs to develop her own masculine and her own provision, and her own structure and things like that. So, you know, I've been working more on that now.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and you know, I guess the way I see it is, you know, we have all these different aspects of consciousness that can live through us, and oftentimes we're just running these unconscious programs, you know, that we've inherited from our family systems or from the culture at large. And to me, a lot of the work is just, number one, like even recognizing that we're just living out these patterns in our lives, and then realizing that we can adopt new skill sets, you know, new qualities of being that allow us to embody something different than the habit pattern, right? And it's, I think what I find with my clients is that's the most challenging thing, to kind of adopt something new on top of these programs that have been running for so many years of their life, you know, because of the, you know, the neural pathways get highly woven together into the brain. And I guess that's one reason I'm a big believer in spiritual practice as a way to kind of reset and realign with new ways of being. So I'm kind of curious. I wanted to ask you about the Kriya Yoga, and you know, just the way that you work with that, and I guess in how it relates maybe to this, what we're talking about.
Yeah, so the Kriya Yoga system, which I actually just started training in this summer while I was in lockdown in Bali, it's been a very closely guarded system up until this time, because it's so powerful, and I think they didn't want it to become very commodified like a lot of other systems have. But it basically utilizes, I guess, similar to what you've experienced with the Kundalini yoga. I haven't done Kundalini yoga, or I've done a few classes, but I haven't studied that system, so I don't know exactly how it differs. But I have heard that there were some accusations of misconduct against the guy who founded it. And
Pretty recently that all came out.
So I think that I feel like yoga has been subject to a lot of distortions. So that's why I was particularly drawn to this system, because it's been, you know, kind of a little bit secretive. But it basically uses mudras, dynamic movements, breath work, chanting, and music to detox the physical, emotional, and causal bodies. So, you know, there are kriyas which will balance the chakras. There are kriyas which will basically detox your body of different like emotional traumas and templates that you might be running. So we hold different emotions in different parts of our body. So, you know, we bear like responsibility, you know, on the, like on our shoulders, like the burdens and things like that. And, you know, I'm not sure if, are you familiar with Louise Hay's work?
Yeah, yeah, the kind of you can
Yeah.
heal your life and affirmations and things like
Yeah.
that.
So
Yeah.
so she talks a lot about, again, how we store emotions in these different parts of the body. So I like to bring, because I've studied her work in with the way that I teach Kriya Yoga, is I like to use a lot of affirmations when we're working on different Kriyas. So let's say, for example, we are opening up the heart chakra and we are tapping out grief, heartbreak, unmet expectations, and then opening up the channels of giving and receiving. So you receive through the feminine side, and you give through the masculine side. So that's the idea of provision. So it creates a microcosmic orbit that connects us to the abundance of nature. And the heart is definitely like connected to the earth. That's nature. Nature, the earth provides for free. It's just that we're kind of, you know, trapped in this, you know, system with like usury and fiat currency and this kind of debt slavery system, that people have these fear programs that that the world that we live in is not abundant, but it is abundant. And we also have kriyas that tap out the fear programs as well. So once you start to kind of get rid of all the fear programs, you start to tap into the abundance of Mother Nature, you start to detox the Svadhisthana, the sacral chakra. We store very dark emotions in the legs. So like our legs basically we have 7 chakras that also are in our legs, and then 2 chakras in the soles of our feet that connect us to the earth. And in the legs, we store a lot of like subconscious emotions, very dark energies. So like guilt, shame, abandonment, betrayal, blind rage. So we've got kriyas that get rid of all of that. Like that, you kind of need to kind of work your way up to it. So we don't do that until, like, you know, we've opened up the energy channels and things like that. But yeah, sometimes there'll be people like screaming in the
Hmm.
lessons because they're releasing so much shit, like, you know, just and sometimes when, you know, I'll be working on a certain part of the body, and maybe it'll be like a betrayal thing or abandonment. Abandonment is on the masculine side, and you know, you just suddenly like re-experience old emotions, or like have like memories come up to the surface. And then you're supposed to, we do breath work to release. So we'll do like Kali Mudra, which is and
Hmm.
it's a very intense a breath practice that purges out those emotions from the energy channels, the main energy channel, which is the shushumna, which is the spine, the spinal gateway. But sometimes I'll be like, oh, I don't have any of this to release because I'm good, you know, like
Right.
I've done all my work already. And then you'll just start burping. So, you know, you think that you don't have anything to release, but it just still comes out. Like
Yeah.
your body, and it's an amazing like biofeedback system, because sometimes you know, I won't have done any kriyas for like a couple of days and I think I'm fine. But then, you know, I'll notice like a twinge or like a discomfort or a pain even in a certain part of my body. And then that's what tells me, because I think a lot of the times men especially are very disconnected from their emotions. But even women who've been operating in man mode for so long, especially women who are very successful corporate women, will be very disconnected from their emotions. And but your body, which is a subconscious mind, it stores everything and it doesn't lie to you. And if you've got a chronic pain in a certain part of your body, it's usually because there's some emotion that, you know, related to that part of the body that you're holding on to that needs to be released. So kriya is really powerful, not just for like releasing like physical emotions, but just healing the body in so many different ways, because, you know, our thoughts create our beliefs and then those manifest, you know, physically in our body as well. So it's, you know, it's such a powerful system. I'm really happy I discovered it.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And
Yeah.
I love the way you break it down. And it is pretty similar to, you know, the tradition that I come from. And again, like I know the, you know, Kundalini as taught by Yogi Bhajan is kind of um, being called forward in a certain way. And I think that's it's something to look at in terms of how these spiritual systems, probably in just about every tradition in the world, get somewhat bastardized because they give us access to a certain power, right? And
Yeah.
and power, when people get access to power, they can choose to, I guess if they haven't cleared out their shadow programs, they have the potential to use it just for self-serving means, right? And that's why we see
Yeah.
it so commonly in leadership in the world.
100%. And the thing is, I actually, because I did so much work on healing my masculine as I was healing the feminine, because both of those work together, I kind of get it. I understand like how these yogis suddenly have got all these women who are like, deifying them and literally throwing themselves at them. I understand how that is for a man, like, just from integrating my own masculine. But obviously some of them have got like really awful allegations leveled against them, which is just inexcusable.
Yeah.
But I can totally understand how a man would kind of get seduced by all that, suddenly he's getting all this feminine attention from, all these like hot yoga chicks.
Yeah,
It
it's very seductive, right?
Yeah.
I'm kind of grateful that I'm not at that status level yet, because I
Yeah.
I I imagine that, I mean, the one thing I love about men's work is that, at least the culture that I'm committed to creating is a culture of accountability. It's not about
Yeah.
gurudom, where there's like one teacher that has all the
Yeah.
answers. And I think that's where
Yeah.
we get into trouble, is
Yeah.
where
That's
there's,
problematic.
yeah, it's like we kind of can project onto people as, having something that we don't have access to, and in a sense give our power away. And I think
100%.
that's dangerous in a lot of
Yeah.
ways, um, especially if that teacher, um, yeah, I don't know what it would take to be at that kind of level of teaching a lot of people and having tapped into a certain amount of wisdom without letting it kind of feed this ego, this kind of unconscious ego in a way. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I get into those spaces sometimes when I get people messaging me going, "Wow, your videos changed my life," and da da da. Then I kind of like, "Wow, yeah, I'm amazing." But then there's that trigger, there's that shadow aspect where they're like, "Yeah, I'm having an awakening now, and I'm wanting to do this," and then I'm just like, "Oh my God, they're gonna be more powerful than me,"
right, there's
and then
like
I
this
have to check
competitiveness or
myself,
something.
and I'm like,
Yeah,
"This is what you wanted. You want people to be powerful."
yeah. That's good. I mean, see. I think it's beautiful that you're able to just name that authentically, and I think that's part of the
Yeah.
problem. It's like if we can't kind of call ourselves forward in a way, and
Yeah.
pretend. I think I see that in like the Christian traditions often, because there's so much need to repress, like that we do have these dark sides and these urges and these thoughts that come through us. And if they go unacknowledged, if we're just like, oh yeah, I'm like above and beyond that, I think that's where a lot of that seed of shadow act starts to take over and
Yeah.
take root.
Yeah,
Um,
people really need to do their shadow work. I love
mhm,
shadow work because
mhm.
I feel like it makes you so much more powerful when you can own your shadows. Because if you don't own them, people will level them at you. But if you just kind of go, yeah, I know I can be like this sometimes,
Right.
they can't, then they can't say shit. They're just like, okay, she's owned that or he's owned that. Yeah, so I'm training under an amazing teacher called Emily Harris at the
Mm,
moment. You should look her up, actually. She
yeah.
also teaches Hieros Gamos, and she's a quantum healer. She's an oracle, actually.
Mm,
But yeah, one of the distortions that she kind of explained to us in the course that we're doing is she was just like, get rid of this idea that as a healer or as a teacher, you have to be perfect, or you have to be like enlightened, or above people, and above pettiness or whatever. We're wounded healers. Being wounded is what makes you a healer. So and you don't have to have transcended it all. You only have to be, I mean, this is my theory, you only have
mhm.
to be one chapter ahead, because if you wait until you've transcended it all, people won't be able to relate to you anymore. and
Yeah.
then you won't be able to help them because you'll be too advanced.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you know, I'm a big believer in that this concept that's really talked about a lot in, you know, mythology and art throughout the world. This idea that there's right next to the wound lies our gift, and in order to keep cultivating that gift, we need to stay in relationship to our wound, and in a way, like we can definitely grow and evolve, but I think our core wounds will always kind of be there, and the way I see it, it's for a reason, because they're actually
Yeah,
there to keep us humble. You know, they're here there
yeah,
to humble our egos so that we don't get so swept away in, you know, this identity of having become glorified in some way. They actually keep us connected to our humanity, right? And like you said,
100%.
that's what makes
Yeah,
us relatable, and for people to
yeah,
actually, you know, yeah, I think it definitely connects to that, um, this idea of, you know, I think when somebody gets put on this pedestal as being a guru, what gets projected on them is like they've resolved all their stuff, you know, like
yeah,
they're enlightened. And to be honest, I don't really buy into it anymore. Like,
yeah. 100%. I mean, look at some of the most famous people in this, but like people like Tony Robbins and stuff like that. I mean, I look at him and I can see how unintegrated he still is.
mhm.
And so many other people in that space, they're not enlightened.
Yeah.
They still have a lot of work to do. I mean, they're very successful, but I think, yeah, it's definitely, it's mainly the people projecting, oh, this person is not this and they're not that and they're not, you know, it's just like, yeah, but what are they? Because we don't have to be everything.
Hmm.
um but yeah, what's the main issue that your clients seem to come to you for, or that you seem to be very good at transmuting?
Yeah, I would say most of the men that I work with are lacking a connection to their purpose and their kind of self-confidence, self-worth. You know, they're all kind of tied in with each other. And
Yeah,
often that's a result of a kind of self-abandonment, because, you know, as men, we kind of step into these boxes of how we're supposed to show up in the world. And a lot of
yeah,
times that means turning off certain aspects of ourselves, like
yeah,
shutting down our emotions, deeming those, you know, unuseful in the world, or we take, you know, a man will take on like a career path that, um, is either the safe road or
yeah,
something that, you know, his family of origin convinced him
yeah,
would be like a secure
yeah,
route to take, and that's an act of self-abandonment, right?
yeah, yeah,
um,
100%.
and you know, because men are not initiated in modern culture, we're not
Yeah,
taught how to connect to the deeper parts of ourselves. I mean, that's what
mm,
initiation is. It's like it's setting up a relationship with the more than human world, right? The
yeah,
divine, however you want to call it. Um, and that's really the foundation of the work that I do, is connecting men with the deepest part of themselves, so that they their confidence is not rooted in some external means of, you know, self-validation, but it's rooted
yeah,
in like a deep truth. And you know, I think that connects a little bit to something we chatted about, and a video you put out around like the kind of the outdated concepts of like alpha and beta, and
yeah,
how, um, like the our ideas of alpha are not like a true sense of what alpha really means in a deeper
yeah,
way. Um,
100%. Yeah, it's so socially conditioned. That was actually, it's not even my, it's not my own work at all. It's based on, I don't know if you've heard of a guy called Mark Passio.
mm-mm.
He is incredible. He is my favorite spiritual teacher, and most of what I've actually learned about the Hieros Gamos comes from him, even though never heard him talk about the Hieros Gamos specifically. But when I started kind of researching, you know, I came into the idea of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, it was through his work. But he talks about it on a macro level, which is what I was, you know, when we were messaging, I'm preparing a video which I've just filmed and will go out this week, talking about how these energies, when they're imbalanced, obviously they cause massive problems in relationships, but they cause even bigger problems on the macro level, which is society. Because if you have broken relationships, which are usually caused by broken children, you have broken families, you have broken communities, and you have a broken society. So he talks a lot about rebalancing the energies within the self on a micro level so that we can have like global change. So in the video, I was talking about how so many people are in their wounded feminine, and that's why they're allowing kind of governments to kind of run the show, because they don't have that. One of the core aspects of the wounded feminine energy is naivety and blind belief, and also submitting to authority. So that's how a lot of people in wounded feminine energy get into relationships with narcissistic people, because the narcissist is, you know, controller, dominator, service to self. It leads because leadership is a masculine principle, but because it's not heart-centered and not integrated with the divine feminine, it leads in the direction that is self-serving to itself, not to whoever it's leading. And I think that that's what we're seeing right now on the world stage. But, you know, people are waking up in massive numbers now. But he talks about the alphas and the betas as socially conditioned models, because the socially conditioned alpha is usually a toxic masculine. So he will be, you know, at the top of the social hierarchy. He will be earning a lot of money, and maybe, you know, tall and good looking, and all these kind of socially conditioned values that a lot of women who have historically been in wounded feminine energy will validate and seek in a masculine man. And even women who are in their masculine energy are conditioned to seek out. But if you've got a socially conditioned alpha masculine man, and then you've got a socially conditioned woman who's also in her masculine energy, as women are programmed to be, there's not good polarities, you're going to get repulsion. So that's why so many relationships are unstable. So a socially conditioned alpha can only be in a relationship with a wounded feminine, which again is more stable, but it's toxic. So this is how the
codependent kind of stability.
Yeah, exactly. So this is how the Hierogamic template has been targeted in order to create this kind of dysfunction, because it then makes people much easier to control, and governments, you know, can take over much more easily when people are not in their sovereign power. So that's what his work focuses on. And he talks a lot about when you balance these energies, you actually become self-realized and sovereign. You connect to the divine. And when you connect to the divine, you know that no other man can rule over you. So governments have no power, police have no power, they have no jurisdiction over a sovereign divine being. Yeah,
so powerful. I love that. It totally makes sense. It's this, you know, I see it really consistently in this dominator culture model, right? And I really, you know, I feel excited about just an emergence of new forms of leadership. And unfortunately, it hasn't really reached the governmental model, and I don't know if it ever will, because the bureaucratic model is sort of built on this power over domination model. And I don't know if there's any way to alter that without completely dismantling it.
Yeah, exactly. So he talks about people coming into internal monarchy within the self, which is where you activate the king and queen, which is the Hieros Gamos, where when you've got two people in union, a man and a woman, and they're both kings and queens, they can make massive change on the planet. That's the staff and rod Hierogamic template. So the staff and rod in the Bible. They talk about the shepherd that leads the flock of sheep out of the darkness. So the staff leads the sheep, and that's the feminine, and then the rod is for the wolf. So the rod is the masculine. He defends the flock. So yeah.
Cool.
Kamala
That
Harris is
symbolism.
Indian, though. I don't know what that means. What does that mean? Kamala Harris is Indian. Who cares?
Yeah. If anybody wants to pop in some real questions, we'd love to bring it into
Yeah.
the conversation.
Ask us some questions, people.
Vote for Donald Trump. Yeah. And I think the vote's already over with here.
Are they? I thought they were investigating it.
Well, I
Kamala
don't
Harris
know.
going to make change.
I
Not
think
sure.
they are investigating it, but I think that tends to happen every election. There's always some claim of voter fraud, and I don't really know how. It's probably pretty easy to, probably pretty difficult to fight something that's already been projected at this point, this far into it, but we'll see.
Yeah. Did Donald Trump say that India is a filthy state? I didn't know that he said that.
Yeah,
Can you send that to me? Can you send me video evidence of him saying that? Play it Insta. Oh,
right.
one.
Yeah, that's the
What,
thing. It's like everybody says they heard these things somewhere, right? And that's why I try not to get too involved in this like divisive kind of
yeah.
political discourse, because I think it's just a waste of time in general.
Yes, it's controlled opposition. He talks a lot about that as well. I think you might like his work if you're politically inclined, or not even politically inclined, but you're spiritually inclined. You would like his work. He
Okay.
really cuts through the bullshit, and for me, that's informed my work, because it's not just about improving people's relationships. It's about being change makers.
Yeah.
Somebody's asked a question. Do you want to
Yeah.
answer that?
Sure. What do you see the next step is in terms of the collective awakening? That's a big question. I love that. Do you want to take a stab at that?
Sure. Yeah, so, okay, winter solstice. I'm not an expert on astrology, but apparently winter solstice, there is a Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, which is extremely rare and hasn't been seen before in our history. And apparently it's going to provoke like mass awakening. And so apparently what I've been hearing is this year 2020 is like what the Mayans originally predicted 2012 would be. So a lot of people went through their awakenings in 2012. I did. But 2020 is when we're going to see shitloads of people coming online and a lot of people awakening. And I think anybody who's awake needs to be stepping into their mission, I think, right now,
Yeah.
because we're not going to pull this off just with, like you were saying, with the leaders, having leaders. It's a very old paradigm thing. So I think there needs to be more like cooperation, collaboration.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a similar response. What was coming for me is, yeah, I'm a big believer in community and people coming together, in particular for spiritual practice. And I know, with this leadership concept, or at least of our general understanding of it, it's hard to know how to enable that without it falling into that kind of old paradigm of, this person is our guru and they're in charge and they know exactly what needs to happen next.
Yeah.
And I think the new paradigm to me looks like cooperative communities, shared leadership, real deep intimacy and vulnerability, really unpacking, in particular, the genders and the kind of externalized gender wars that are really just a reflection of our own process, our own experience of our internalized gender war, and just
Exactly.
creating safe spaces to speak our truths,
Mm.
and also to clear these old programs. And I really believe these ancient practices are super effective, especially when we're getting into our bodies. I think
100%. 100%.
I think this we're in this place where, you know, with social media and so much power wrapped up in the internet and these kind of virtual worlds, like it's very easy to um, get sucked down these information rabbit holes and just kind of feed the mind these negative stories that are not really based on truth. I know it's a really difficult time because we're all pretty isolated physically
Mm. Yeah.
on a certain level, but I really believe that it's going to be an important step that we find, even if it's small community pods where we can start to do this deeper work of kind of
Yeah.
revealing our our truth together and exploring, you know, how we change the system from the inside out.
Yeah, well, I mean, personally, I think that that's why they're trying to stop it, because they think they're trying to arrest people's awakening. But yeah, I think up until this point, it's been really difficult to have open conversations and actually get at the truth because everybody's been so triggered. Um, and I know for me personally, I was getting super triggered by different viewpoints because I had not integrated those wounds and I hadn't healed them.
Mm-hmm.
So once I did integrate those wounds, you know, all kinds of things around racism, white supremacy, the patriarchy, this, that, you know, Me Too, and, you know, healed the inner masculine and the feminine and these two polarities, which didn't just heal, because it's not just about healing, you know, the inner masculine and feminine. It's not just about healing relationship with men, but it's also about things like service to self and service to others. And, you know, are we all responsible for creating our own individual reality, or are we responsible for co-creating a reality that works for the collective good of everyone? So then you kind of come into like collectivist ideas like communism and stuff like that, and, you know, being able to kind of get to the middle way,
Yeah.
I think is really key, which is why I love the Kriya Yoga system, because all those distortions, you basically work on each side of the body and clear all those distortions from the left and the right side, and you come into this neutral central alignment, which is necessary for the Kundalini to flow. So yeah, it helps you heal those triggers so that when somebody presents an alternative opinion, you don't have all these stories going, oh, how dare you, you are
Right.
misogynist, or you're this, or you're that. And you can actually listen and kind of expand your consciousness, because I wouldn't have been able to heal my inner masculine unless I was able to, you know, transcend those triggers, because I basically had to do shadow work by going into red pill spaces,
Mm-hmm.
into men's spaces, and listen to what they were saying about women, in order to heal it. And if I had gone into that before I had healed those wounds,
Yeah.
I would have got triggered and I wouldn't have been able to handle it, because they say really violent things, they say awful things.
Yeah.
But I was able to put myself in their shoes and see where is this pain coming from that the collective masculine is holding on to. And then I realized, wow, like we're fucking goddesses. Like they want us, they want our love and our validation so much that not having it is causing this deep wound within them that they're projecting outwards. So
Mm.
it's very healing for me.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And I love you being able to bring that perspective in such a clear way, and having sort of, you know, because this these polarized ideas about, you know, like feminism and, you know, even on the other end of it is like the red pill dudes that are, you know,
Yeah.
saying like how white men are not as privileged as they seem to be. I think it's important to see both, right? And
Yeah.
I'm totally with you on just finding that middle place where we can really discern the truth, and to be able to have these kinds of conversations. Those are the kinds of conversations I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
It's really, really essential for our, so we can learn from both, because I think there's probably wisdom in both sides, in the
Yeah.
light and the shadow, that we
There
can,
is 100%. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, beautiful. Um, I I want to start to wrap up our conversation. Even though I'm really enjoying it, I think we could probably go
Yeah,
on for a while, but I got something going on at
cool. No
11
worries.
my time. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Is there anything you want to close with? Anything else
No,
you want
that
to
was a
share?
fantastic conversation. I really enjoyed what came through. And yeah, I like people's questions as well. But yeah, we can do that another time. But thank you so much for inviting me onto your platform.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really great to
Yeah.
have your wisdom. You got a lot of truth coming through you, and I appreciate all the I know it doesn't come without doing a lot of deep inner work,
Yeah.
and I just want to acknowledge you for your personal journey and the work that you've done and your willingness to kind of face all sides of yourself to be able to bring this through. Yeah,
Thank you. Likewise.
yeah. Well, have a beautiful evening over there, right?
Thank
Your
you. Have a
evening
good
time.
day.
Yeah,
Yeah. Best
and
of luck. Take care.
take care, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye.
You're introduced to LSD, and unless you've taken some other drug, like for instance, like marijuana or something, well, it's an altogether new thing, and you actually can have a religious experience